Okay, so as far as your hand goes, there's a couple things to talk about. The first thing is your thumb, right? Some people have like an anchor thumb. Some people have like what's called a floating thumb, where they will their thumb will just kind of move like constantly. Some people kind of split in the middle, where they'll have a thumb that moves, but it still kind of acts as an anchor, which is more or less what I do most of the time. I have a floating thumb technique also, and some people even talk about like they weren't able to play certain speeds, and they weren't able to, and they couldn't get a good sound until they started doing the floating thumb. But if I were you, and if you're a beginning bass player, I would start with the technique that I'm about to talk about, which is where you have like a movable anchor, right? So when the shape that your hand should take is like you're holding a ball, like a baseball or maybe a tennis ball or something like that. And so by that, what I mean is you wouldn't hold a ball like this, right? Like I've heard some people talk about before that, okay, your thumb is supposed to be behind your middle finger or something like that. I completely disagree. It's a really uncomfortable position for most people's thumbs to be in. And it's weird because it kind of like puts a little bit extra stress on your wrist right here also. So what I do is I keep my thumb, and you can kind of see it when I play. You can still see my thumb, right? I'll kind of lift up a little. You can still see my thumb as I'm plucking, right? If my thumb was behind my middle finger, it would be completely hidden. And that's extremely uncomfortable for me. It like hurts even just doing it. But yeah, so I keep my thumb out to the side like that. And what'll happen is I started on a 4-string bass and then jumped immediately to a 6. I never played a 5. And so because of my 4-string bass technique, what happens is, personally, I don't think it's good to stretch, like really stretch, right? Like some people they'll anchor their thumb on the pickup, and then they'll still try and play the C string. Obviously you could do that, but I just don't think it's healthy for your hands. It's not healthy for my hands, I know that. So what I do is I basically group my thumb. I basically group the strings in groups of 4, like on kind of average. Or that's how I set my hand up, right? So if I'm playing B, E, A, D, I'll anchor my thumb on the B string. If I'm playing E, A, D, G, the normal 4, I'll anchor my thumb on the E string. If I'm doing A, D, G, C, then I will anchor my thumb on the A string. And every once in a while, if I'm on E and I need to play the C string, I will, I'll just reach, and I think that kind of thing is fine. Same if I'm playing G and my thumb's on the B string. I'm not going to move my thumb that much, but kind of knowing when I'm going to move my thumb and things like that changed the way that I played a lot when I switched to 6-string. And the same thing is going to happen for you. Like you're going to have, a technique that will slowly change over time. You just got to make sure your foundational technique is strong. And so I guess, yeah, I would advise that in general, if you're playing a 5 or a 6, don't anchor your thumb on your pickup. Also, my pickups are really wide and far apart. If you have pickups like that too, I would advise the same thing. I would say don't anchor your thumb on your pickup. One thing I used to do was just like lightly touch the top of my thumb just on the bass. I did that for a while. I don't do that anymore. I just have like a floating thumb now. If I'm getting back here, I'm just playing. If I'm just doing like this on the B string, yeah, most of the time, maybe I'll anchor my thumb a little bit on the wood, or maybe the pickup. I'm not really sure now that I'm thinking about it, but in general, I wouldn't do those things all the time. So now, when it comes to your picking fingers, the first thing I would say is make sure when you pluck, you start with your finger on the string, right? I know a lot of people who will start like this. They'll start like really high above it, like an inch, or maybe even more, depending on how big your hands are. And what they'll do is they'll kind of strike it through like that. But the hard part is when you want to pluck again, you have to bring your finger so far back up, and you're causing your fingers to do like twice as much work, which it's not a big deal when you're doing that. But when you get to a point where you're like, where you're kind of doing, maybe it's a really fast song, or you're just trying to, play 16th notes or something like that, that's when it's going to be really hard. It's gonna get way harder. And so what I say is start with your finger on the string. do not pluck up with the tip. Don't pluck up with the tip of your finger. Get as much like meat on the string as you can. Pluck through towards you, like back up this way. Catch yourself on the string below it, right? So when I play an A, you can see my finger goes through, and you can visibly see the E string being pulled back, like that. And so the reason is, if you catch yourself on the string below it, and I say below because it's a lower string. I know some people call that above, but I call it below. So if you catch yourself on the string below it, you don't have to stop your finger. The thing I don't like about when people pluck up is they either have to physically stop their finger, or they have to pluck all the way up until your finger naturally stops like that. But if you just pluck backwards, you're either catching yourself on the string behind you or on your thumb, right? So when you're to practice this, I would say, let me try to click on 1, 2, 3, just quarter notes, and all you're gonna do is focus on a couple things. When you pluck the string, don't start really far away, like that. You want to get your finger close to the string, like that. The next thing is you're going to focus on catching your finger on the string behind you. Golly, I can't do two things at once. You're going to catch your finger on the string behind it or below it. And the next thing is you're going to focus on alternating. So right, left, or I'll say like you can do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, or left, right, right. And the reason you want to alternate is because you can develop extremely bad habits if most people have like a dominant finger. For me, it's my second finger, my middle finger. And there was a time when I didn't think about it that much, and so I had this bad habit of I would be plucking. Every once in a while I would do 2, 2, or I would go middle. I would go 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that kind of a thing. And they didn't really matter at slower tempos, but when I had to get to faster tempos, oh man, it was awful. Because it would slow me down, because in such a short amount of time, if I'm playing 16th notes like that, and I'm gonna double up, that means my finger has to move twice as fast as it's used to, because it has to play and then travel the distance and then play again. So to avoid that, when you're practicing in the beginning, you want to make sure that you're alternating the entire time, and that will make sure that later, that kind of thing doesn't give you trouble. Also, if you make sure to alternate all the time, no matter what, what finger's closer or something like that, if the rule is I'm always going to use the last finger that I didn't use, which is a weird way to say that, you're going to get in a habit of always being ready to play the next string or the next note all the time. Which will make playing much easier. You won't have to think about it as hard or anything like that. Hey, how's it going? Right now, I have 2 products available, and the whole reason I made these products is just to share the knowledge that I have gained over time, and to give people the shortcuts and the path necessary to succeed in music however they can, and especially on bass, because I'm a big fan. One of those is a book, How to Play Chords for 4, 5, and 6 string bass. The other is actually a bass course, a 5-part beginner bass course, going over tons of fundamentals, fretting hand, plucking hand, musical alphabet, stuff like that. So if you're interested, DM me directly. The book is for sale on Amazon, but if you want to buy it for me directly, I'll throw in something else for fun. For the bass course, message me directly on Instagram or on YouTube, and I'll be happy to get that to you ASAP. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.